On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Men, how you doing? Welcome to session 37 of the Men on Target curriculum. In our last session, we dealt with a man and his friends. I hope you really enjoyed that and you took the friend test. If you haven't, please go to otm.co and sign up to get that particular session. And while you're there, remember, please download the handouts for these sessions. They're very, very important for you to have, and they're free. Now, this session, session 37, A Man and His Time, part 1. I heard a story one time about a guy talking to the Lord. He says, Lord, money means nothing to you. You own the cattle on 1,000 hills, and money really doesn't mean anything to you, does it, Lord? And the Lord said, no, money doesn't really mean that much to me. And so the man went on and said, Lord, time is not important to you either. Time means nothing to you. I mean, you live in eternity. There is no time. A minute to you is like 1,000 years. He says, that's right, a minute is like 1,000 years. So the guy said, Lord, can I have $1 million? And God said, just a minute. I thought that was a kind of a fun story. But anyway, let me read this to you because I really think this is important. I came across this years ago, and I think it's really a great illustration. It goes like this. If you had a bank account that credited your account each morning with $86,400 that carried no balance from day to day, and allowed you to keep no cash in your account, and every evening canceled whatever part of the amount you had failed to use during the day, what would you do? $86,400. And whatever you don't use, it goes away. What would you do? Well, you draw out every cent, of course. You do, by the way, have such a bank account, and its name is time. Every morning, it credits you with 86,400 seconds. Every night it rules off as lost whatever of this you have failed to invest to good purpose. It carried over no balances. It allows no overdrafts. Every day it opens a new account for you. Every night it burns the records of the previous day. If you fail to use the day's deposits, the loss is yours. There's no going back. There's no drawing against tomorrow. You must live in the present on today's deposits. Invest it so as to get from it the most in health, happiness, and success. Well, let me define your life for you. And you're being pulled in different directions. You're frustrated about the quality of your relationships. We talked about that maybe in the last session. You have no time for devotions or for getting closer to the Lord. The Bible doesn't seem to address all your hectic needs, and you always seem to be going uphill. Expectations are not being realized, and you feel out of control. If I were to ask you, what did you accomplish yesterday? What would you say? I did this one time to a guy, and I'll tell you who the guy was and why I did it in just a moment. He said, well, and he had a list of things that he did. I went to the store, I went to the cleaners, I washed my car, I played tennis. And I said, these are things that you did, but my question is, what did you accomplish yesterday? Guys, there's a difference between just stuff that we do, and it's the idea of sometimes how life can manage us instead of us managing our life. What did you really accomplish? It's kind of like there's this guy that used to work for me that I'm talking to you about right now. His name is Larry. And Larry was the epitome of efficiency over effectiveness. Let me explain. One day Larry came to me and he had rewritten the entire corporate operating manual, and he handed it to me. And I said, Larry, what did you do? He says, I rewrote the entire manual. I said, how long did it take you to do that? He says, I've been working on this for months, and I've been doing it, and whenever I find time, I've been working on it and getting it all done. And then let me tell you, the job Larry did at putting this manual together was unbelievable. It was beautiful. It was very efficient. However, It was a totally ineffective use of his time. Two things were happening here. First of all, it was a reflection on me as his leader that I didn't even know he was doing this. But secondly, it was a reflection on him because Larry is the kind of guy that all he cares about is being efficient, and he sometimes doesn't apply the 80-20 rule. What is the best use of my time right now? He didn't really ask himself those questions. So that bad leadership and efficiency over effectiveness is a very, very important thing that we have to consider as we drill down in this whole idea of how to manage my time. How did we get here, guys? How did we get to a place where our lives are on that list and they are so hectic? Well, I believe that part of this is the enemy plan. The enemy wants to attack us and keep us distracted and keep us from finding God's plan and God's purpose for our life. So he attacks us through the senses. We've got all these things that are happening to us, the music industry, the TV, the radio, the internet, and all of our devices. It seems like, that we're always wanting to be up on the latest things that are going on, and we have this insatiable appetite for wanting to have all this information. And what is it doing? It's causing us to not really truly evaluate how effectively we're using our time. I call it information overload. We've got more information available to us today than all of recorded history combined, and people are saying that every 2 or 3 years the information that we have available to us is doubling and tripling. It's overwhelming us. And again, I believe that's the enemy's plan to keep us on our heels and going the wrong direction. We value activity over results. The fact that I'm just busy, I know oftentimes, listen, even when I was in the business world, I fell into this trap. I would come to work and I would work long hours, but oftentimes I wasn't doing very much. But I would appear to be active, but I wasn't getting a lot of results because I felt if people just saw me moving around and doing things, they'd think that I was really a hard worker. But the fact of the matter is, if you're not producing the kind of results that you need, then what is it? It's, again, the efficiency versus effectiveness. It's the form over substance. And guys, we can't fall into this trap. Okay, listen, when in Kenya, they don't have this problem. When people get up in certain parts of the world and all they own in life is a loincloth and a spear, it ain't real complicated. But you and I live in a culture today where we're so distracted. Someone said that there are literally thousands of decisions that we have to process in our brain every hour of every day. And life is no longer simple. And sometimes I think we need to get there, guys. We need to really do things to make life simpler and a little bit easier to process. So, again, the enemy plans, because here's the enemy, what the enemy is saying. He knows that an unordered people will lead to an unordered world, which ultimately leads to an unordered people, which cannot find the time to find God. And that is a real problem. So, the result or the problem, life is managing you. You're not managing life. And life is winning out. All the distractions are pulling us in the wrong direction. It's not a lack of time. It's a lack of vision. In Proverbs 29:18, you've heard me quote this before, where there is no revelation or no vision, the people cast off restraint. The idea that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It's all about activity. It's not about getting results. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom and instruction. Vision is important. And as a result of no vision, we have no clear priorities and goals. No long-term vision. Why plan? Why have a plan if I can't even have the vision in front of me that I'm trying to shoot toward? There's really no reason for planning, and planning is where we're headed, okay? So, you cannot have a meaningful goal, listen guys, without a vision, okay? And you cannot have a meaningful goal without a vision, and you will not accomplish a goal unless you value it. It's very important that and you're not going to value the goal unless the vision is clearly in front of you. These are very important ideas. Where your treasure is, the Bible says, there your heart will be. The idea that if you value where God is taking you, you'll have godly goals and you'll be moving in the right direction. In our next session, we're going to be talking about the solution. We're going to be talking about a strategy for living. We're going to be talking about how do I move now from where I am. Now that I understand that the enemy is trying to get me off track and that my life is hectic, I can admit that my life is hectic and I'm confused about a lot of things. How do I get out of this? And how do I move forward and have a strategy? And we're going to get practical. We're going to teach you how to have a plan, how to set priorities and goals. And we're going to talk to you much more about that in our next session. So for this session, life implication, listen, not having an ordered life can lead to confusion and make it difficult to find time for God. That's one of the biggest reasons why we're doing this, guys, because you don't often find time management, from the pulpits these days, but it's very important that we learn how to order our lives in a way to where we can really establish the kind of relationship with God that we need to have in order for us to get His vision and purpose for our life and become the man He intended. So, life application. On a scale of 1 to 10, how am I managing my time? Where would you say you are? Talk to the guys in your group about that. Maybe you're a 2 or a 3. You say, wow, life really is managing me. I get up and if I only got 1 or 2 things to do that day, I allow those 2 things to fill the entire available time for the entire day, as opposed to being more deliberate and doing 3 or 4 or 5 things and establishing time frames within which I require of myself being disciplined. It's very important that you do that. But evaluate on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing in managing your time? And am I guilty of being efficient at the expense of being effective? And explain that. You can use the Larry example. You saw what happened there. Are there times when you began to do things that maybe they were fun to do? I'm guilty of this. Hey, I think I'll go over here and on my to-do list, I'm going to do this lower kind of level item, a lower priority item, because it's fun to do and I can do it quickly, get it over with. But that's a lie, guys. Someone said use the Swiss cheese method. Just take a chunk out of your overwhelming objective so at least you're moving forward in the priority areas. Have this discussion. I pray God blesses you. And until next time, don't forget about it.